Yo, I'm Style Redefined, and a lot of you guys have been asking for a tutorial on Ninja Gaiden 2. I had a tutorial for the game already, but I thought since everyone is asking that this would be a good enough opportunity to also update this, because there were two techniques which I never mentioned previously, since I never knew them as I was making the video at the time. So I'm going to add those two additional tutorials. Also bear in mind the sound quality. This was recorded with my gaming microphone, with my gaming headset, which is pretty trashy. So it's not sounding as smooth as I would like. Even then still, it's good enough to do the job. Now don't forget to check out my Ninja Gaiden 1 tutorials first, because those are very important to learn before this, to build a solid foundation, which this video just builds up on. If you enjoyed it, then share it around and yeah, do that, whatever. Support and stuff, yada yada. And let's get right to it, man. Let's cut to the chase.
Yo, I am the Stylesman, and welcome to my Ninja Gaiden 2 Sigma 2 tutorial series. Okay, first things first is that I highly recommend that you check out the Ninja Gaiden Sigma 1, Ninja Gaiden 1 tutorials, because a lot of those tutorials will still apply here. One thing that you'll notice when transitioning from Ninja Gaiden Sigma 1 or Ninja Gaiden 1 to Ninja Gaiden 2 is the massive upgrade to the combat system. Everything has been cranked up to 11, and every single weapon in this game is a lot more fleshed out compared to the first game. Whereas in the first game, the weapon usage was rather situational. However, in Ninja Gaiden 2, everything has been upgraded and has become more fleshed out. The entire game has been made so that you are now able to go through the entirety of the game using just a single weapon in all kinds of situations as well. In Ninja Gaiden 2, you have a total of 8 weapons. In Sigma 2, you have 9 weapons for Ryu Hayabusa, including the Emna's Fang. Each weapon is very fun to use. Each weapon has their own unique properties in combat, which you may find more useful in some situations compared to others in regards to how the weapons work, their damage per second, their effects on the enemies, as well as the ultimate techniques. The single katana and the dual katana still hold prominence over the fact that a lot of their attacks can be shuriken cancelled, just like in the first game. And there was a lot of style to be had in the first game. At the same time, it was still very tactical in many cases, and you had to think about your approaches. It's still like that in this game. However, there's a lot more emphasis on the style. You can handle many different situations in loads of creative ways. And the best thing about it is that you can look good doing it with every single weapon. The Emna's Fang in particular also has the ability to juggle larger enemies in mid-air, a unique property that is exclusive only to the Emna's Fang. It's very important to have a feel of every single weapon in the game, and mastering it does not take long either. The game is very easy to get into, very accessible, and has a very high skill ceiling. One of the new features that has been included in Ninja Gaiden 2 is the ability to sever the limbs of your opponents. Once a limb is severed, the enemy becomes more dangerous and is willing to actually sacrifice themselves in order to deal more damage to you. The term which is used for an enemy that has a severed limb is known as a delimbed enemy. A delimbed enemy also is handicapped, which gives you a strategic advantage in combat. If by chance there are any delimbed enemies in combat that you may come across, you have the ability to finish them off instantly by means of something known as the Obliteration Technique, a newly added technique in Ninja Gaiden. When close to a delimbed enemy and pressing the heavy attack button, your character will perform a unique attack. This attack, when connected correctly with the opponent that is delimbed, will allow you to instantly finish them off. These obliteration techniques are key to your survival in Ninja Gaiden 2, especially if you want to raise the style factor. And if you feel like showing off these unique attack animations, which are restricted to obliteration techniques, can be used in order to perform some really flashy combos. There are many combos in Ninja Gaiden 2. Combos in Ninja Gaiden comprise of both light attacks and heavy attacks in a single string. If you were to delay the attack in a combo string, you would still be able to perform the combo string as normal, even if the string comprises of both heavy and light attacks. However, if you were to delay the combo string of a heavy attack against an enemy that is delimbed, then instead of continuing the heavy attack in the combo string, your character will perform the obliteration technique. Obliteration techniques performed like these will allow you to seamlessly perform obliterations mid-combo. It's very useful when dealing with enemies that you want to take out quickly who are already delimbed from attacks prior within your combo string. In the game, there are some combos which allow you to perform the obliteration technique as part of the combo. These special combos can only be performed with the Dragon Sword, the Blade of the Archfiend, and the Falcon's Talons. By performing the specific combo, it allows your character to perform that combo normally. However, the properties of the combo change when facing off against a delimbed enemy. Instead of finishing the combo off normally, your character will perform the obliteration technique instantly, as if the obliteration technique was a part of the combo. If you want to perform quick obliteration techniques one after the other, then this is the perfect way to do it. One great use of this method is if the enemy is too far away from you. These special moves will allow you to close that distance and finish off with the obliteration technique. With the obliteration technique, there are a few additional things that you need to know. Enemies defeated using the obliteration technique will always drop yellow essence. It is possible to perform different obliteration techniques by using a directional input while you're pressing the heavy attack button for the obliteration technique. This method will allow you to perform different variants of the obliteration technique, which can be helpful when it comes to you wanting to perform the obliteration technique of your choice, or just to use the correct obliteration technique attack that you want to do in order to make your combos look more fancy. The obliteration technique has invincibility frames, so this is a movement that you can rely on when surrounded by enemies or you would like a quick breather in the midst of combat. So add this to your list of iframe techniques. Enemies with a single limb severed can only be the ones that are able to be finished off by the Obliteration Technique. And finally, with the Sigma edition of this game, the bosses must be defeated using the Obliteration Technique. Counter-attacks make a return to Ninja Gaiden 2 with a few differences compared to Ninja Gaiden 1. The first difference is that you are no longer able to mash counter-attack like you could do previously in Ninja Gaiden 1. Instead, you must time your counter-attacks. Time it too early, time it too late, and you will be punished. The most optimal type of counter-attack is when the enemy will hit you, but you are able to counter it so perfectly that it doesn't manage to actually hit your guard. Counter-attacks in this game have many different kinds of follow-ups, and many different kinds of effects which could lead to things like air combos, as well as leaving enemies easily delimbed. Counter-attacks have extremely high delimb potential, and like previously, they still have invincibility frames. The Dragon Sword Counter Cancel is a special type of technique reserved only for the light attack variant of the counter attack for the Dragon Sword. This special technique will allow you to cancel out of the dash attack for the Dragon Sword. To perform this technique, counter-attack using the light attack button for the Dragon Sword, and then during the attack animation, release the block button. Thereafter, quickly press the block button again and input a direction. If performed correctly, then you will be able to cancel out of the counter attack, and this movement is very useful in order to cancel out the recovery frames from this counter attack, as well as being able to help you keep the pressure on the opponents and stay on the offensive. In this game, it is possible to perform the Flying Swallow after a wind path. However, it can only be with weapons that has the Flying Swallow as a part of its move list, and it requires an enemy in the same direction in which you wind path towards. Most of the weapons require an enemy in order to perform the Flying Swallow. If there is no enemy, then they will just perform the regular air to ground heavy attack. Every weapon does this except the Dragon Sword. So for all of these weapons, it's impossible to perform the Flying Swallow on the same enemy that you wind path off of. All except one, the Dragon Sword. In order to perform this special technique with the Dragon Sword, wind path off of an enemy. Then, as you wind path off of the enemy, throw exactly 4 shuriken. Once the 4 shuriken have been thrown, input the heavy attack button. If performed correctly, then you will be able to perform the Flying Swallow on the same enemy that you wind path off of. This technique is exclusive to the Dragon Sword in this game, and this is a technique that I call the Reverse Flying Swallow.
Previously mentioned in my Ninja Gaiden free tutorial series, but it's relevant here too, so here we go. In Ninja Gaiden 2, you have the ability to perform the Flying Swallow after throwing 4 shuriken in any direction with the Dragon Sword, and only the Dragon Sword. Just keep holding the left stick in a direction you want to travel in the entire time as you throw the 4 shuriken and input the Flying Swallow. This can also be performed after a wind path. Running Attack Cancel is a Dragon Sword exclusive move. To perform the Running Attack Cancel, start running in a direction and press the light attack button. Whilst performing the light attack, keep the left stick tilted in the direction you are facing and press the block button with the correct timing. This will allow you to perform the dodge to cancel out the light attack recovery animation. And remember, you have to make sure you time this right.
Heavenly Justice is a special dodge that can be performed in the midst of a combo string for most of the combos, only for the tonfa. To perform Heavenly Justice, during certain attacks, you are able to press the jump button, which allows you to cancel out of the combo string into this special dodge animation. Heavenly Justice cannot be performed for every single combo string. Instead of pressing the jump button, Heavenly Justice can also be performed by pressing the block button. Heavenly Justice can also be directed in any direction you desire by moving the left analog stick whilst performing Heavenly Justice. All the moves which can be shuriken cancelled with the tonfa are the same moves that can be interrupted with Heavenly Justice. Heavenly Justice is extremely useful with the tonfa, allowing you to link and chain multiple techniques. This ability alone causes the tonfa to be one of the most useful weapons in Ninja Gaiden, especially due to the fact that Heavenly Justice has invincibility frames. Heavenly Justice also has a series of follow-up attacks. It has a single heavy attack, as well as being able to follow up the light attack string into a special throw. If you choose to perform the heavy attack follow-up against an enemy that is de-limbed, instead of performing the heavy attack, your character will perform the Obliteration Technique. With the correct timing, Heavenly Justice can be used to restart your combo string. So instead of performing the usual Heavenly Justice follow-ups, you can start performing a different combo entirely. Charging your ultimate technique upon leaving Heavenly Justice also allows for instant use of ultimate guidance. Demon Cutter is a special technique reserved only for the Kusarigama. Demon Cutter allows you to pull enemies towards you and instantly sever a limb from them. This technique allows you to be able to follow up with the Obliteration Technique and finish them off instantly. The limb that gets severed all depends on what part of the enemy the weight attachment of the Kusarigama hits. If it attaches to the leg, then the leg will be severed. If it attaches to the arm, then the arm will be severed. If an enemy is already de-limbed, once they are pulled in, your character will sever their head. This attack only works on human-like enemies, and this includes fiend imps. Demon Cutter is a very useful technique as the throw of Demon Cutter has invincibility frames. When performing Demon Cutter against a bigger fiend, then there is a high chance of the enemy being de-limbed. It's not always guaranteed, and there is no actual throw animation when performing Demon Cutter on these types of enemies. There are many different activation methods of Demon Cutter, so it's best to be able to check them on the moves list. Projectile weapons make a return to Ninja Gaiden 2. There are a few differences in the usage and techniques of the projectile weapons in Ninja Gaiden 2 compared to Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. In this video, I'll be talking about projectile weapon usage in vanilla Ninja Gaiden 2. One key thing to note is that only one projectile weapon can be used at a time, just like in the previous Ninja Gaiden game. A new addition to this game is the added function of projectile UTs. These UTs can also be charged using essence and can be charged quickly with the help of ultimate guidance. The incendiary shuriken returns with high dealing potential. If it manages to stick to an enemy, then it normally delimbs them. This causes the incendiary shuriken to be a 2-hit kill for most of the enemies. However, it's important to know that enemies are able to block the incendiary shuriken, and some enemies are just naturally immune to it. When performing the incendiary shuriken UTs, the ET causes your character to throw 2 incendiary shuriken, whilst the ultimate technique, the UT, will cause your character to be launched into the air and throw 3 incendiary shuriken. The windmill shuriken also returns to Ninja Gaiden 2. Unlimited uses and also the ability to charge the windmill shuriken for a UT. The bow and arrow also has this property of being able to charge it to enter ET or UT state. With the windmill shuriken and the bow and arrow, charging for an ET or a UT will give added power as well as increased chance to delimb an enemy. This also gives a high chance to be able to completely split an enemy in half. The bow also has the ability to stun larger opponents. For the most part, when it comes to using projectile weapons, the auto-aim works really well. However, with some enemies, the auto-aim does not really help too well. And in certain situations, you will have to be relying on auto-aim a lot, since there will be tons of enemies on screen attacking you from all directions, which makes manual aiming less ideal. Another important thing to note is that your auto-aim range in midair increases compared to the auto-aim range when on the ground. Projectile weapons in Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2 have different uses. Now you are able to use both the shuriken and the bow for Ryu Hayabusa at the same time. The shuriken is great for stunning smaller targets, whilst the bow is good for stunning the larger targets. The bow also has the chance to still delimb both the smaller and bigger enemies. Thanks to being able to use both the bow and the shuriken at the same time, this has its advantages. Small minor differences in the gameplay which can be game changing. For example, if the bow is shot in mid-air, say after a wind path, then you are still able to maintain that closeness between you and the target. This also works if you are launching an enemy in mid-air and performing an air combo. The bow allows you to maintain a close distance between you and your target, whilst throwing shuriken will cause you to gain some extra distance between you and your target. Another method when using the bow and the shuriken in mid-air is that you are able to throw the shuriken after firing the bow. This is useful to give yourself that extra air time if you see any incoming danger on the ground. This is also very cool for air combos. Now, when you manually aim, your crosshair snaps towards the closest target. This works most of the time. You are now also able to move while shooting the bow. When moving and shooting the bow, you fire arrows at a faster rate. Another interesting thing is that when aiming the bow, it causes slightly more damage than if you were to just shoot the bow normally. A very important thing to remember is that when you land after shooting the bow in mid-air, it allows you to land in a running state, while firing the shuriken in mid-air causes you to land in a standing state. This little detail is very important and crucial when it comes to the gameplay of Ninja Gaiden. It's this minor difference that can make all the difference with your combos. Unfortunately, the projectile UTs have been removed in this version of Ninja Gaiden 2, as well as the incendiary shuriken and the windmill shuriken. With the Sigma edition of Ninja Gaiden 2, it includes 3 additional characters. These 3 additional characters have their own unique weapon, their own unique ninpo, and their own unique projectile weapon. Essentially, these characters are like additional weapons, packaged to be their own unique character. Ayane is the fastest of the bunch, but the weakest. She has also been given the incendiary shuriken. The incendiary shuriken still has the same properties. When lodged in an enemy, the enemy will be stunned. The shuriken will explode. When fired from a wall jump, 2 shuriken will be thrown instead of 1. And her ninpo is a massive area of effect ninpo with high dealing potential. Momiji is the balanced character of the 3. She has the balance between speed and power. Her projectile weapon is a bow, which has similar properties to Ryu's bow. Just like Ryu's bow, when firing the bow in mid-air and landing, it allows Momiji to land in a running state. Momiji's ninpo works similar to Ryu's Art of the Inferno ninpo, a ninpo that seeks out a maximum of 3 different enemies. And then there's the final character, Rachel. Rachel was dislikable in the first game, but in this game she is greatly improved. She is the slowest of the 3, but clearly the most powerful. Her hammer does insane damage and has extremely high dealing potential. She also has a machine gun, which is pretty funny if I'm completely honest. Her machine gun has insane dealing potential even on Master Ninja difficulty. It's ridiculously OP. Like Ayane, she has an area of effect ninpo, and the cool thing about Rachel in this game is the fact that loads of her combos incorporate the machine gun, so you can use her machine gun as part of the combo in certain combos. Of the 3 characters, Ayane and Momiji have their own variant of the guillotine throw. Rachel's variant of the guillotine throw that she had previously in the first Ninja Gaiden Sigma game has oddly been removed, and all 3 characters can perform the wind run. With Momiji, one of her unique abilities is her double jump, the Heavenbreaker ability. Heavenbreaker can be used to double jump in any direction. You can perform your initial single jump in one direction, and you can perform the Heavenbreaker double jump in a different direction. You can use this to help position your character, as well as to help evade projectiles or attacks. Another cool thing about Heavenbreaker is the ability to implement it in your air combos. The aerial attacks that you perform with a single jump differ compared to the attacks that can be performed when using Heavenbreaker. Another amazing thing about Heavenbreaker is that holding the heavy attack button during Heavenbreaker will allow you to charge your ultimate technique. Make it Momiji the first ever character to be able to perform the ultimate technique in mid-air. Charging for the aerial ultimate technique will instantly use ultimate guidance. Alright, this is it, the most important thing about Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2. The roll-through tutorial. Yeah, that's right. You guys think I wasn't gonna do this? You're dead wrong. Okay, of course I was going to do it. Yeah, you thought I was trolling, huh? Well, here we go. Rollthrough is Rachel's special spinning twirly ability. Alright. By facing a direction, if you correctly dodge towards either her left side or her right side, she does this little spin, which is called the roll-through. The roll-through has invincibility frames. You can chain this ability. There's two ways of doing this. The first method is the trickier method, and then I'll go through the easier one. So the first method is to always put a roll-through input after every single roll-through. So if you decide to start your roll-through on the right side, your inputs would be to dodge right, then dodge down, then dodge left, then dodge forward. And you would continuously do this. If you want to start from the left side, it will be dodge left, dodge down, dodge right, dodge forward. And then you continuously loop this, and you can infinitely loop this for however long you want. Alright? Special twirling goodness. Great. The second method is by continuously turning the camera. Once you start turning the camera in a certain direction, so if you decide to start turning the camera to the right side, you'll be constantly dodging to the right. You need to hit that sweet spot, yeah, and you can hold the left analog stick in that direction once you found that sweet spot. And then you hold the left analog stick in that same direction once you hit that sweet spot, and then you keep tapping the block button. You can do this constantly and just dance away through every single battlefield. It's quite tricky to perform in battle though. And you can do the same thing on the left side by having the camera spin towards the left side, and then once again finding that sweet spot by starting your dodging chain with a left side dodge. And then once you find that sweet spot, constantly keep tapping at the right intervals, or if you manage to actually find the perfect sweet spot, you can start mashing the block button and just go crazy. It's pretty weird, it's odd, but the most important thing is that I got this tutorial out of the way. Yeah, you thought I wasn't gonna make this, huh? You thought I wasn't gonna make this? Well, joke's on you, you donuts. Here it is. Eat it.